Well, hello and welcome back to yet another episode of the Off Field Diaries presented by the Third Man Cricket Show, a show where you get to know everything that's happening behind the scenes in the world of cricket and you hear them from the people themselves who make it happen. Thank you to each and everyone who saw the first episode of the series. We received some great responses and feedback from quite a few people, which the Third Man team is delighted to know. As we move ahead in this journey today, we have yet another special guest joining us. He's one such personality who is a vital piece in the puzzle called franchise cricket. Every year, this man decides the fate and destiny of many young and experienced cricketers around the world. But let me first tell you about his brilliant career. This man has conducted over 2,500 auctions around the world in his 35 years of experience. In these years, he has sold more than 3 lakh lots for a sum in excess of over 2.7 billion euros. This is more than 270 crores when we talk in Indian rupees. In 2019, he became only the second person to host an IPL auction and is still doing so in 2022. The Third Man family, yes, by now you must have guessed who this person is. So, without any more suspense, let's just cut down the chase and welcome all the way from England, the man with the hammer, Mr. Hugh Edmeades.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to see you all.
Sir, it's an honor to host you and share the screen with you. Thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule and having a conversation with the Third Man Cricket Show. Once again, I welcome you.
That's very kind of you. No, it's my pleasure to to be involved with the IPL and to be involved in subsequent chats with you, the Third Man. So I'm very honoured to have been invited. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, what are you doing, sir, currently? I mean, what is the backstory? I mean, yes, everyone knows the space of Hugh Edmeades as the IPL auctioneer in India. I mean, we know that when we show you on screen, a lot of people are going to go berserk. So, how was the experience in India? I mean, you have been traveling regularly to this part of the world. How do you feel about India and the people and the culture here? Just if you can sum it up.
Oh, I love it. Before I became involved with the IPL, I'd been to India several times. I'd been, I think I've taken 6 charity auctions as far afield as Delhi, Mumbai, Chandigarh. I went up to Chandigarh for an auction there. And then one year, my wife and I we did the Rajasthan tour, which was fascinating. We love the culture. We love the noise. We love the smell, the food, the people. So when I was invited to sort of join the IPL family, it was not a difficult decision to make. So 4 years ago, I packed my bags and set off for Jaipur.
Yeah. And it's been a brilliant journey, sir. To be honest, I'll just let you know that all the people who don't even follow cricket or who don't even follow IPL, but they do follow the IPL auction, which happens every year. So they are very delighted to see you every year coming to India and most of the times changing the fate and destiny of most of the young cricketers in this part of the world. So we'll just start the show. We'll start the show. Just before that, before starting, I just want to know which is the part of India which you have visited the most at a time, or you wish to visit most of the time again and again.
It's difficult. I mean, Rajasthan is probably the area that I know most, know best. Jaipur, Jodhpur, Udaipur, over to see the Taj Mahal. No, I was just amazed at the architecture, the culture, the colours, and the sort of the razzmatazz of a very bustling country. Very different to the UK, I can tell you.
It sure is, sir. It sure is. So
we have lots of good Indian restaurants in London, so I can keep.
Hopefully, we'll have the privilege of coming to UK anytime soon in the future, and maybe Hugh Edmeades will help us find those restaurants in England.
If you're nice to me, I will. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. For sure. All right, sir. All right. So I will just start this conversation for the audience. They are very eager to see what's in store in this episode. So just to start with, we and the audience want to know how did you spend your childhood and what got you into auctioneering? I mean, was there something which you found intriguing about auctions? Because this is a career path which not a lot of people decide to take. I'll just let you know that.
No, well, I came to sort of become an auctioneer sort of by mistake more than anything. I wanted to be an antique dealer, have a shop selling antique furniture. Um, and when I came out of college, where I learnt from books and from postcards and from pictures, um, I really wanted to get my hands on the furniture so I could see whether it was reproduction or the real thing. And someone said, well, if you join a major auction house, you can't fail to learn on the job. So I joined Christie's in 1978, and in those days the market was very strong. Antiques were very popular, and so I was very busy. I was handling 300 items of furniture every week. So yeah, 300 lots in each sale. And then in 1984, 6 years later, just as I was about to start looking to leave and set up on my own, my boss beat me to it. He suddenly left. So the director said, we'd like to offer you his job as head of the furniture department. So I said, well, that's great. And they said, oh, but you've got to be the auctioneer. And that filled me with dread. At school, whenever the school play was mentioned, I would volunteer to paint the scenery, do the lighting, do the sound, anything to be sort of behind the spotlight rather than in front of it. So the idea of having to stand up in front of people filled me with dread. I had some rather awkward training with the directors. And then one very hot day in 1984, my managing director called me into the sale room and said, right, Hugh, get your jacket on. You're taking the last 50 lots of the sale. So I said, well, I haven't got a jacket today. And he said, well, go and find one. So I reluctantly found a jacket and got up there and suddenly found that all the nasty bits of the training didn't happen in real life, because I really was put off by the training, and I thought if this was auctioneering, you can keep it. Anyway, I then began selling every week. As I say, the market was very strong in those days, so it was an easy job. All I had to do was call the numbers as quickly as possible. I didn't need to be at all persuasive, because everyone wanted to buy antiques. It has changed somewhat over the last sort of 40 years, I must admit. But so that's how I got into auctioneering. And then I was selling certainly every furniture sale every week, helping with a picture sale or a porcelain sale, a jewellery sale. The branch of Christie's also looked after the collectibles, so I was selling cameras and toys and teddy bears. So my learning curve was vertical. I was probably selling 300, 400, 500 lots every week. These days, the auctioneers are lucky to get 100 lots every month. So it's very difficult for them to get the sort of the flying hours that one needs to become a good auctioneer.
Yeah. So to be honest, I did not expect that answer. I mean, in my head, the backstory was that you're very excited about auctioneering from your childhood or something like that. But knowing that from yourself that you got into it by mistake is completely which us and most of the crowd out there they did not know this for sure. So moving on, yeah.
So just one point. I always tell my children, if you're given the opportunity to do something, take it. Even if you think you're going to hate it, as I did with auctioneering. And suddenly I found, A, I enjoyed it, and B, I was quite good at it. And if I hadn't taken that opportunity, I wouldn't be talking to you today. So, or everyone watching, if you're given an opportunity to do something in life, take it, because you might not get that opportunity again. And when I initially was asked originally to be the IPL auctioneer all those years ago, my commitments at Christie's just didn't allow me to travel to, I think it was in Bangalore, that first auction, and so I had to turn it down. And obviously Richard got the job. And watching him over the years, I was super jealous of what a fun auction it was. And I thought, well, it'll never come my way again. And then suddenly, out the blue, the cricket board rang me and said, "We're going to change auctioneers. Are you interested?" And I said, "Yes."
So to be honest, I think the cricket board made the right decision, and they're in agreement with these words as well when I say this.
That's kind of you to say so.
Yeah. So moving on, another question I'd like to ask you is, when most of the world hears the word auction, what comes to their mind is someone standing on the podium with a hammer and anchoring the event with the objective to sell the commodities to the highest bidder. But we're sure there must be something beyond just this. I mean, what does auctioning mean to you? How do you look at it?
Well, basically, an auctioneer is a salesman or saleswoman, as the case may be. We act as the intermediary between someone who wants to sell something and the person who wants to buy it. So we are the middle person. And when I'm working for a company, be it Christie's or whoever, it is in my interest to get as much money for that particular piece, because the more money I raise, the more commission the company will earn. So yeah, we might be standing up there calling numbers, but we have to be persuasive to make people go one more bid when they're thinking, well, my limit is 10 lakh and I'm not to go to 11 lakh. And it's my job to make them go to 11 and change their mind, and then hopefully someone else will go 12. So that's great. That's very satisfactory when because we wield, because we're standing in our rostrum, looking down at the audience. So we kind of have a sort of psychological power up there, but just by our physical sort of raised presence. And by powers of persuasion, by saying, I know you're trying to say no, but I think you ought to say yes. Time and time again, they say yes. And that's my job. When I get excited when someone tries to stop bidding, it's then my mission to make them continue bidding further than they perhaps wanted to go in the first place.
Yeah, so I think I'm just saying that it's an interesting job, in my opinion, that which you're doing right now, and you're doing it tremendously well. Just from a fan who watches IPL auctions year after year, I don't think there's any better person out there to do the job than you, sir.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so. Not sure if my predecessor would agree with you, but I do.
I think he will. I think he will. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, sir. So moving on, first of all, it's an honor to have you on our channel. I mean, it is going to be such an insightful session, and it has been insightful already with the way how you described your journey so far in the from the childhood. And a little bit a while ago, you touched upon your memories at Christie's. So I just want to ask you about those fun memories that you had in your time at Christie's. So before you answer, to all the audience who don't know what Christie's is, so Christie's is a British auction house founded in the year 1766. The auction house has seen many records of highest bidding till date. So, sir, would you like to narrate us through those fun memories you had at Christie's?
Well, I was very, very lucky to get. I mean, there are two major international auction houses, Christie's and Sotheby's. So to have had the opportunity to work for Christie's was a great honour for me, a great thrill. And as I said, I only meant to be there for 5 years before setting up on my own, but I ended up being there for 38 years. And the last 8-10 years, I was sort of the head auctioneer. So I got to travel. I was selling in London, in New York, Amsterdam, and where we didn't have homegrown auctioneers, Hong Kong twice a year, Dubai twice a year. And at the same time, I was trying to find local Hong Kong residents to become auctioneers or sort of Arab speakers in Dubai. So I was extremely fortunate, and I have so many happy memories of so many different sales, and each sale is a performance. Each audience is different, whether they're buying furniture or silver or paintings, and each country has a different culture as how they want to bid. So it's always a challenge. It's never the same job every day. And I try to immerse myself in the culture. I watch local auctioneers in the country that I'm going to be selling in to try and pick up the nuances of what or how they do their job to the maximum effect. Towards the end of my life, I was out of the country for probably a third of the year, out of the UK. Again, if our Mumbai office were asked to support a local charity that we wanted to help, they would tend to ring me up because I was very much a one-man band. I had no catalogue deadlines to worry about. So that's how I ended up in Chandigarh, in Monaco, in Casablanca, Singapore. So I got to see the world. Unfortunately, I was always in and out the cities pretty quickly, so I never had much of a chance. I did have a very good game of golf in Chandigarh. That was good fun.
Definitely brilliant, sir. I mean, just with the way how you were answering, we could see the passion in in the way you spoke, and I mean, to roam the entire world in this way, it really is remarkable. And you spoke about it being a new day whenever it comes to auction, and we have seen that time and again whenever you actually had the performance in the IPL auctions. I mean, to get a country to be interested in an auction which spans over 2 days. I mean, who would have thought about it before 2008? And I mean, this has made it possible. So really, hats off to you, sir.
Thank you.
So moving forward, sir. Moving forward, so in the year 2004, there was an event wherein you conducted the auction of 88 guitars, which raised over $7 million. I mean, that must have been huge. So it's been about roughly 17 years. So, but can you just take us through how that was like for you?
That was great. That was Eric Clapton's guitars, and although Eric is a British man, he has a bigger following in America. So we decided to sell the guitars in New York, and I rather proud that we can't have an American auctioneer selling Eric's guitars. We've got to have a British auctioneer, which my colleagues in America agreed with. So off I went. It was a very bizarre auction. I would have thought probably 95% of the audience had never been to a Christie's auction before, and so they didn't know how to behave. There was hollering and shouting, and at one point, the main guitar, which Clapton called Blackie, which he'd composed Layla on, and was one of his main stage guitars. When I announced it was the last lot in the sale, and I said, right now we've got the final lot 77, and it's Blackie. the room stood up and began bowing to it. And then we sort of played Layla through the speakers very loud, and there was cheering, and it made $800,000 or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was fun, and we'd rather underestimated just how popular Clapton's guitars would be. I think we'd estimated Blackie at sort of 100 to 150,000, and it goes for 850,000. So that was a fun sale. Every single lot sold. There was no unsold lots. He was there. We tried to get him to come and actually walk on stage with Blackie at the end, but he felt that would be rather sort of abusing. And I said, well, you're not benefiting from this sale. It was his drug rehabilitation center in Antigua in the West Indies, where all the money was going to. And I said, if you walk on stage with that guitar, we're going to double the price. But we couldn't persuade him. But he watched from the side and was very grateful to Christie's and the amount of money we raised for this very worthwhile cause.
Definitely, sir. Yeah. So since you're talking about Christie's, and we all know that it has been a huge part in your life. So in 2016, I think you decided to step down from Christie's and decided to move ahead as a freelance auctioneer, if I'm not wrong. So what was the thought process at that time? I mean, how hard was it decision, or was it very easy for you to move on?
It was somewhat forced on me in that because the auctions were becoming further and fewer between, there were less auctions for me to take, there were less auctioneers for me to appraise, there was less need for me to train up auctioneers. And so they suggested that I should go on a 3-day week rather than work full time, because there were the long periods in the year when there weren't any auctions at all anywhere. And I was sitting around kicking my heels. So I said, well, rather than just going on three days, let's go for sort of redundancy. And they agreed. They gave me a very good settlement. And I thought, well, I could have stayed there for 3 days for the rest of my life, but I thought, well, I'm now young enough to do something on my own, which was a challenge because having always worked for a big corporation, it was suddenly being out in the big bad world, having to earn my salary by myself rather than having a nice check coming into my bank account from Christie's every month. So that was an exciting moment for me, and luckily I had the sort of transferable skills. I now work for London auction houses, all new auction houses. They've asked me to be their auctioneer. I'm heavily involved in the charity circuit. So I still. I was in Dubai a couple of weeks ago. Got to go to Monaco again in May. So the work is coming in. I'm probably making as much money as I did working full time, but I can pick and choose what I want to do. If it's a charity I'm particularly sort of keen on, then I'm very happy to support it. As I say, I've got the sort of best of both worlds now. I can pick and choose the work I do. And when I want to do it, and I still get to travel.
Definitely. I think the way you are explaining this, is very, very exciting for all of us. I mean, I can right now just stop everything and start becoming an auctioneer someplace or the other. I think Sanchit is in agreement here as well with me. So right now I couldn't resist myself. I want to request this. We'll just pause the interview here and just. We want a replica of the Third Man Cricket Show being on that IPL auction, or the IPL auction stage. You're taking a bail out of it, and this Third Man Cricket Show written on it. So, can you just replicate it a bit for the Third Man family and everyone who's watching this?
Shall I go and get a bail?
Yeah, you can just replicate it as well. That's not an issue. Yeah.
Okay. So who is next to come out of the hat? Let's have a look. Oh, it's number 55, and that is Virat Kohli. How much shall I bid? Virat starting base price is 200. Anyone want Virat for 200? Oh, thank you. 220, 240, 260, 280. On and on and on and on it goes. I've never sold Virat. I love to sell Virat. So that's how it works. And I bring my hammer down and call out the next number. Obviously when I first started doing the IPL, my concern was being able to pronounce correctly some of the Indian names, and luckily there weren't too many Sri Lankan players that year. So they were quite tongue. But I have a friend, an Indian friend who lives around the corner. So he and I sort of sat down together with the Auctioneer's book, and we went through them. So I was very pleased. My first two players out the hat were Alex Hales and Martin Guptill. So I thought, well, at least I can pronounce those two names. The fact that I didn't get a bid on either of them didn't sort of cheer me up. But we were off. That was the sort of start of my IPL life.
Yeah. So just like that, just like you sold Virat Kohli right now, can you just do the same for the Third Man Cricket Show as well? Next player out of the hat is the Third Man Cricket Show, or something like that. It will be lovely to hear for our team and for our viewers as well.
Okay. Can we have the next bail out the hat, please? And it's number 13, Abhinav Mishra. How much for Mr. Mishra? Can we say 10 lakh? 10 anywhere? No one wants to bid on Mr. Mishra? No? Surely 10, surely somewhere. No bids. Sorry, Mishra, no bids for you.
Lovely, sir, lovely. I don't mind being getting unsold by you right now, to be honest.
Yeah, upsets me.
Yeah. So moving on. Right now we'll just have a fun segment with you. We have a segment called "Edged and Gone." It's a very generic term which is used in the world of cricket. What we do here is we ask 5 questions to our guest who is coming on. Based on whatever it could be cricket history, it could be IPL history. In your case, our team has decided to shift more focus towards the IPL. So whenever you're ready, we're going to start with Edged and Gone. Bringing up the first question on screen, please. So the question is most expensive player at the IPL auction. Your options are Pat Cummins, Chris Morris, Yuvraj Singh, and Glenn Maxwell. And just to give you a hint, you sold this player.
I should know this one. It is Mr. Morris, Chris Morris.
Can we have the right answer, please?
Really?
Sold. It's the right answer. Chris Morris is the right answer. Well done, sir. 1 out of 1. Next question coming up right your way. Most expensive English players in the IPL since 2019. Options are A. Timal Mills, B. Ben Stokes, Jofra Archer, or D. Liam Livingston. Another hint for you. This is a very recent buy.
Very recent buy. Oh, I know this one. Unfortunately, I didn't sell him because I wasn't there at the moment. Sharma sold him. Liam Livingstone is my answer.
Can we have the right answer on screen, please? Yes, it's Liam Livingston. I can guarantee you that it's not Chris Morris. Next question coming up right your way. Who was the winner of the Emerging Player of the Year in 2008, which was the inaugural edition of the Indian Premier League? Your options are A. Rohit Sharma, B. Virat Kohli, C. Shrivas Goswami, or D. Ravindra Jadeja.
Oh,
it's a tough one. This has been the toughest question. I'll just let you know from the 5.
Have you got any clues for me?
To be honest, I'll just let you know that he played for a lot of franchises in the IPL until last year.
Well, that really helps me. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let us go. We'll go for C.
C. Srivat Goswami. Can we have the right answer on screen, please? Yes, it's the right answer. I think my hints are helping you a lot. Maybe I'll just back out from giving you hints for the next last two questions. Can we have the next question on the screen, please? So, who is the most successful captain in IPL history in terms of win percentage? Not in terms of number of wins in the games, but in terms of win percentage. A is Steve Smith, B MS Dhoni, C Rohit Sharma, or D Virat Kohli.
I'm tossing up between MS and Rohit. I'll go for MS.
MSD, is that the right answer? Can we check out?
Oh,
no, it's not. Yeah, it's Rohit Sharma, the 5-time winning IPL champion, the Mumbai Indians skipper. That's not an issue. I think when I don't give you hints, it's much better because you tend to think a lot for the answers as well. So
I was close with that one.
Yeah, very close. I mean, you said the two options were pretty right. And just to let the audience know, it's not much of a difference between Rohit Sharma and MS Dhoni when it comes to win percentage in IPL. So, the last question on screen: which player has won the most Man of the Match awards in IPL history? A. Chris Gayle, B. Virat Kohli, C. AB de Villiers, or D. Lasith Malinga?
4 fantastic players. I'll go for AB.
AB de Villiers. Is that the right answer? Yes, I think it is the right answer for sure. AB de Villiers. Sad to see that this man is not part of RCB this year around. I mean, everyone was looking forward to AB being a part of RCB and again causing trouble to all the 9 franchises ahead.
Yeah, indeed. I can imagine. The other 9 must be very glad that he's not playing.
Very, very glad, sir. If you ask any team out there, one player which you are very happy to see retired in this year's IPL, I think everyone is going to write AB de Villiers on that sheet of paper, which will be given.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Definitely, sir. So moving forward with the questions. So these are some interesting questions coming up, and now we're going to focus more on recent times of the IPL auction. So I'm sure that you're going to enjoy this a lot. So there's something about being an auctioneer. I mean, that makes people go, wow. So we just want to ask you that, is it a born skill or can it be acquired over time? And let me tell you, I mean, I just mentioned that a couple of minutes ago that in India, ever since 2008, before 2008, no one would have sat in front of their television to follow an auction being taken place. But that was possible after the IPL. So really commendable job by the IPL auctioneers and especially you, sir, ever since 2019. So we just want to know what kind of skills are required to conduct an auction.
You've got to have a sort of an innate talent to do it. I can teach the mechanics, and then the sort of students can learn the bidding numbers and the increments, how they go. But you've got to be the audience have got to like you. If they don't like you, they're not going to give you their money, basically. And this, I suppose, one trouble is I'm trying to get as much money out of them, and they're trying to give me as little money as possible. So we have these two sort of competing desires or wishes, and I like to think that I win more from than I lose. But yeah, I knew. Many years ago, I trained up when I used to run an auction school at Christie's for wannabe auctioneers, and there was one young lad who contacted me and said, "Could he join the school?" And we had a sort of loose rule that you had to have been in the company for 3 years, because there were so many people who wanted to get up there. But I just liked his enthusiasm. He'd only been there 18 months. I'd never heard of him. Worked in the pitch department. And he came along and I thought, well, I'll let him I'll put him through his paces and then looking at him again in 2 years' time. And he was by far the best. He was amusing. He was talented. He'd obviously learnt his numbers. And I was judged. One of my sort of judgments is, would I want this person selling my antiques? And I would have been very happy for Tom to sell my house, because I know he would have got a good price for it. But there were some who, from our accounts department, who were very good at numbers, but were absolutely hopeless. There is a method to the numbers, which I won't go into here. It's far too complicated and time consuming. But there are patterns that you've got to learn. And I find the people in the accounts department were the worst at trying to understand how these numbers operated. So yeah, you got to have an innate talent. As I'll teach them the sort of the tricks of the trade, ways that I find I can get additional bids out of reluctant bidders, and really, just simple things like warming up exercises. We're going to be up there for 2-3 hours. And one's got to pace one's got to get into sort of calibrate one's body and one's mind. Usain Bolt wouldn't run a marathon as fast as he runs 100 meters. So, you've got to work out, right, I'm going to be up here for 2 hours. I'm going to be up here for half an hour.
So next up is a very interesting question. So it is going to be a pretty fun one. So it will be very interesting on how you actually answer it. So what is that weirdest place that you auctioned so far? And any funny memory in your 35 years career as an auctioneer that makes you think that, how did this object earn big bucks? Like, how could it possibly happen?
Well, I suppose one of the weirdest events was we were selling the contents of a large country house outside of London, when we were selling everything, and I had to do the contents of the kitchen, and I was selling the washing machine, and I started it at £10 and sold it for £1, and that was the first time I got a standing ovation for selling something. Second time I got an ovation was last year at the IPL when I fell off the stage. That was a fun lot. Weird thing. I mean, the most expensive thing I sold was a Tibetan tapestry for 345 million Hong Kong dollars, and we expected it to make about 80 million, and that took me 22 minutes to sell that one tapestry, and the bidding just went on and on and on and on 2 telephones, by 2 very rich Chinese gentlemen who desperately wanted it. So as the bidding increased, I thought, when is this going to finish? Who's going to drop out first? But so I think 345 million. We finally finished that. So that was quite a challenge. I suppose another weird lot I sold was, I don't know if you know of Kew Gardens. Kew Gardens is a big, wonderful plant research area in London. And to raise money for Kew, I used to do an auction there every year, selling off plants. And in one year, one of the lots was a ton of manure from Kew Gardens. So I thought, well, I've sold most things in my life, but I never sold a pile of manure before. And that made a lot of money. I can't remember what it did make, but I had no idea how much manure costs these days. But
yeah,
few people wanted it. So that was fun.
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, I just want to appreciate this. Like in the last 35 years you auctioned so far, the best part is that you seem to remember each and every amount of the price that it was sold for. I mean, I'm someone who's really bad with numbers, so I mean, this is such a great thing to know. So it just makes you clear the perception about everything, about being an auctioneer. That it is definitely not an easy task. You need to be absolutely at your best. You need to be good with your numbers. You need to be good with the persuasion skill of making that particular person get that or bid for that object or a player. I mean, it is such a such a commendable job that you do,
Yeah,
sir.
I mean, you got to make every lot is special to the person buying it. So, and indeed the person selling it. Yeah, a lot of the time, the owners would come to Christie's to see the great Christie's sell their family heirloom, family history. So one had to give sort of them respect, and also give the buyers respect, make them feel that they're buying. And most of the lots I sell, are one-offs. They are unique. So one never knows. I always tell my sort of students that expect the unexpected. Don't have any expectation of what something's going to make, because if it doesn't make the money you're hoping for, then you're depressed. The buyers are happy, but the owners are depressed. So I go in with very few expectations, which is particularly true of the IPL auctions. I remember offering Steve Smith year before last, and thinking, well, he's going to make a lot of money, and trying to get a bid. I think I sold him for his. I might have got two bids. I think I sold him for 220. When other similar players of his caliber, were making 600, 700, 800 lakh. So yeah, expect the unexpected.
Definitely, sir. I mean, that is the beauty of the auction dynamics, especially in the cricketing auction. So you can just completely be bamboozled by the amount that these kind of players do get. But sticking to the cricketing auction topic, so you mentioned a lot about the experience you had by selling objects. So it is going to be a very interesting one. So how does it actually feel to put people under the hammer rather than objects? So is there a difference in terms of presenting the particular player to the audience between those two? Because I'm sure that most of
Well, it is different, because when I'm selling objects, they're not benefiting from my skill. But in the IPL, it is the players who are benefiting. It's not the cricket board, because they're not getting any commission. I certainly, the IPL, I see myself as the sort of as a referee, as the umpire, making sure fair play, making sure the bidding goes on at a reasonable pace. It was always going to be slow this year, as it was in Chennai last year, because with the COVID restrictions, and not all the team representatives could be there. So I knew that they were going to be on the telephone relaying the bids to the owners. So yeah, it can be very slow, the bidding. I mean, I would normally sell 70, 80 lots an hour, and the IPL, it's probably what, 10 or 15 or 20, perhaps 20 an hour if you're lucky. Especially this year, with it being the mega auction, when there were 220 places up for grabs, whereas my previous three auctions, there were only, due to the retentions, there were only 60 players. Although I had 300 players to offer, I could only sell 60.
Right. So I completely agree. There's a Go ahead.
It is different selling human beings rather than inanimate objects.
Yeah. So now that we're talking about the IPL auction, and it's kind of a festival happening before the festival, which is the IPL mega auction. So one thing which I'm very, very keen to know is the planning that takes place before the main event, which happened on 12th and 13th of February this year. What happens behind the scenes before the main event? I mean, what kind of preparations do you have to do when you conduct the auction? You mentioned that thankfully, not many Sri Lankan players were there, so that helps you not to with the pronunciation of the players. So, do you prepare anything before an IPL auction, say practicing the names of the players or something like that?
Yeah, obviously that's the sort of the initial problems to get over. I don't do a huge amount of research into the individual players. Obviously, I know a lot of them because I follow the cricket from home. But obviously, there are a lot of uncapped players who I've never heard of. So again, without sort of going into sort of huge detail on each individual player, I kind of reduce the information I have in my auctioneer's book to the bail number, the player, the country he plays for, his age, whether he's, what is his speciality, bowler, fielder, spinner, whatever. Because otherwise, with, I think we had, I don't remember how many names I had in my auctioneer's book.
590 something.
It was 590, wasn't it? Yeah, no, we got up to 600 time I arrived.
Yeah.
So I thought, what is the point of me researching all 600? So I will do the first 200 because I know they will be auctioned, but then the rest might not make the accelerated auction. So I don't want to waste my time learning names and nationalities of players who I'll never get to auction.
Yeah. So how long? I mean, how prior to how many days do you plan the preparation of the auction? Say, how long does it take to say, for example, you mentioned 200 players, you have to study or research some of them. So how long does it take to research these players? Maybe a week or two, maybe a month or something like that.
Well, I only really get the list of players. I think there were 1,000 names originally submitted, and that was reduced to 600 odd. So I get that before I leave the UK, and I'm told which ones are going to be offered in which day and which are definitely going to be offered rather than being put into the accelerated auction. So yeah, obviously I concentrate on those, and I look up see which franchise has released them, who they were playing for in the past. I don't know why I do that, because probably if they've been released, it probably means they're not going to be bought by them again. But it's interesting. And I've sort of put a little note. Well, in 2016, he was sold for X, and now his base price is X minus whatever.
Right.
So that's just really sort of from a pure sort of interest point of view, rather than it doesn't form part of my sort of my planning for the auction.
Right. Completely agree. I think you made a good point there. And now that you mentioned in the previous answer that you follow cricket, very, very closely. So I just want to know, as a fan question, is there any player or a specific team which you follow from England? It could be an IPL team. If there's one, we would definitely want to know which is the IPL team Hugh Edmeades supports.
I certainly couldn't tell you that.
Okay. I was thinking that maybe I got you there.
I'm very independent.
Yeah. So maybe talk about a player or something you like watching, like seeing him play on field.
Yeah, I never really played cricket myself. I was in the tennis team rather than the cricket team. But I always thought God had given me a bat to score runs with. So when I went out, I was more of a so an MS Dhoni or a Ben Stokes type of player. I always thought if the ball was good enough to leave, it was bad enough to hit. So I was always caught off the sort of edge, the second stiff, about third or fourth ball. But I like the swashbuckling cricketers. I love Rishabh Pant. As I said, Dhoni, KP Peterson. It was fun to watch. Back a few years, Ian Botham. But at the same time, I love the artistry of a Tendulkar or a David Gower or a Viv Richards. I can I just like watching people who are the best of what they do, not just in cricket, but the best tennis players and the best soccer players, and to admire the skill that these men have developed over the years. And now, with the ladies cricket coming on, and the ladies golf, it's fascinating. So watching how talented they are, and I'm fully aware that just in the IPL, 1,000 people have put their name in the hat, but only 250 were going to be actually participating in what is a life-changing cricket tournament. And the money some of these people can earn is life-changing. And I feel for those who don't get to be offered, because they've sort of set their hearts right. I'm in the IPL auction, and suddenly I never call their name out. But at the same time, sort of unknown. Was it Chakravarti about 4 years ago whose base price was 20 and went for, was it
8.8 something? Yeah, 8.8. Yeah.
So for someone like that, I mean that was possibly the exception to the rule, but there are an awful lot of people earning 300, 400, 500 lakh for 6 days, and they get them on the world stage, and then it probably opens up the Caribbean League for them, the Big Bash, the 100 now in the UK. Otherwise, they'll disappear back to their village cricket team and never be heard of again. So I do feel a certain amount of pride helping these young people. I mean, cricket is a very short career, unless you go into sort of the commentating or become a TV pundit. It's a short career, and if you're lucky enough to get bought by a franchise in the IPL, then you're made for life.
Exactly. Completely agree there, sir, with each and every word you spoke there. And now that we are talking about auction, we saw a very unfortunate incident happening with you this time around. We were so relieved when you came back on the second day. We saw that video of yours, you saying that you said completely fine, because we were covering the auction live as well. So we just want to know what was the response or the kind of support you received from the cricketing world in terms of message or something, because you were definitely in our prayers. I'm being very honest here. You were definitely in my prayers at that time.
I was absolutely amazed, staggered. Some friends of mine in the UK say you'll do anything to improve your social media standing, won't you? I thought it was a little unfair. Yeah, it was one of those unexpected events. I certainly didn't expect that. But no, I was really touched by the number of people who liked my Instagram postings, who sent messages. I'm not a great sort of social media person, but it was a real eye-opener how powerful it is. I mean, my daughter was walking her dog in Hyde Park in London, and 15 minutes after I'd fallen off the stage, she saw that my Instagram account was sort of lighting up like a Christmas tree, and it said "Auctioneer collapses." There was one message which said "Rest in peace, Hugh." So, which gave her a bit of a shock. And it's extraordinary, as I said in my message the following day, a friend was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and he was halfway up the mountain, and he'd heard that I'd fallen off the stage in Bangalore. So yeah, no, it was a very unfortunate one of those things. I hadn't been sleeping well, hadn't been eating properly, probably hadn't been drinking enough water, quarantining in my room, so I wasn't really exercising. And I rather liken it to a car. If you don't fill the car with gasoline or petrol, and it runs out of petrol, it stops working. And I think the lack of food, the lack of sleep, the lack of liquid, lack of exercise, I ran out of gas, and I was there 1 minute, and I suddenly felt, I felt fine for the first, well, literally halfway through Hasaranga. I mean, the bidding was going a long time for Hasaranga. I suddenly sort of got a hot flush. I thought, oh, this feels a bit odd. And the next thing I knew, I was being picked up off the floor. I don't remember going down. My main concern when I came round was, well, who is going to continue the auction? You've got another 1.5 days to go yet. So I was very grateful that Charu Sharma was available to take over and do a great job. And then, as I said in my message the next day, I felt okay, but I just knew I wouldn't be able to give 100% performance. And I knew that Charu had done a good job, and so that the auction, the IPL were in safe hands. And then, I was under no pressure from the cricket board to come, but they did say we would like you to come down and take the last 20 players or whatever. So I said, well, let's see how we feel later on. And so I thought, well, yeah, let's do it. So I went down thinking I could just slip in the side and then get Cherry to introduce me, and I'd get back up there. But to be held outside, waiting to be introduced, and then walking into that reception was it was extraordinary. It was most very moving.
Yeah. It was the highlight of the auction, to be honest. In my opinion, none of the players, none of the price tags that matter to me. But seeing you back on stage at the end of the final session on the second day, that was the highlight of the auction for me. And I believe that Sanjit will be in agreement with me here as well. So we were so relieved to see you back fit and fine or back on stage, sir.
I was pretty relieved too, I must admit.
Oh yeah, obviously.
But I hope the cricket board invite me for 2023, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And I've really enjoyed my 4 years. I was disappointed last year when the mega auction was quite rightly postponed until this year because of COVID. And so obviously I was delighted to have done a 2-day mega auction, and not quite so delighted to have fallen off the stage before I really got going. But I say that Charu did a fantastic job in my absence.
He sure did, sir. He sure did, yeah.
Without any preparation. I mean, I'd had all that time to prepare. And poor chap, was having his lunch when he got the phone call. So no, hats off to Charu.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. I think with this, we come to the end of the question answer session. So it has been a wonderful session, sir. I mean, the way you narrated your journey with all those 35 years of experience, and the way you narrated it with passion, I mean, it just clearly shows that being an auctioneer is something to really look forward to, and especially in a country like India, which is actually now starting to see the different side of sports when it comes to these different things. I mean, before the IPL, no one would have thought that having a career as an auctioneer would even be possible. But now, ever since the IPL came in and we saw two of the legendary auctioneers coming up to perform the auctions, I mean, it is simply an amazing thing. So really hats off to you, sir. And from the entire team of the Third Man family, we thank you for this wonderful session. If you like our content, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to hit the bell icon, because हम जो content लाते हैं आपकी तरफ, we take lots of efforts to make it. And अगर आपके support से हमें उतने फायदा होता होगा, then it really means a lot. So make sure to do that, and we really value your support.